Freemasonry and the Islamic world. Freemasonry and the Islamic world. The discussion of Freemasonry in the Islamic world has not yet been clearly revealed. It still requires a lot of energy, patience, and sweat points. Existing studies only know the drivers of events in history. The reason for this is that we have not yet come to know the secret hands that move history in the Arab and Islamic world. It is true that we know a little about the movement of Abdullah bin Saba, the movement of Karmat, and also a little about the various mystical groups that have emerged in the Arab and Islamic worlds. But all that we know is very little, very little. The importance of conducting studies that reveal the nature of historical events. Perhaps if we reflect on this issue in a deeper form, and with more determination in our consciences, we will certainly be able to find in our past, as well as in our contemporary history, things that make us wonder and think, and we will certainly be able to approach the events of history with the attitude of an expert and insightful person, not that of a green and gullible person. Until such studies come out, all we can do is look at a small number of events in contemporary history and try to explain them, as we will do in this chapter. The invaders infused Freemasonry in the Islamic world. As a result of the ruthless attacks of the colonizers on the Islamic world, they have implanted in our holy homeland the rottenness, destruction of ignorance, and backwardness. They have also planted in our sacred homeland rottenness, destruction, ignorance, and backwardness. Napoleon founds Council of Isis. This is Napoleon, a genuine Freemason. Having just arrived in Egypt, he immediately established the Council of Isis in Cairo in 1800. He had used this Freemasonry council, through its native Egyptian members, to find out the weaknesses of Egypt and hit the movement that aimed at jihad. Freemasonry in Algeria seeks to establish a family union between French and Arabs. After only a few years of French occupation of Algeria, Freemasonry in 1834 began to disseminate French culture and ideas in Africa, and to educate and cooperate with the Arabs to spread a form of family union with the aim of creating a new French nation. Britain establishes John Council in Egypt. The Egyptian army, which occupied Egypt in 1882, had established the Assembly of St. John on the first days of its occupation. Garand broadcast Freemasonry in Syria. General Garand, a malicious crusader, commander of the French army which occupied the city of Damascus, and thus, in his opinion, brought an end to the crusade in its true form. It was this man who had spread Freemasonry in the Syrian region, and given it all the help it could give, and turned the Damascus Assembly into the General Assembly. Other examples from the Islamic world. What the occupying army is doing in Egypt and in Syria, it is doing in the same way in other countries of the Islamic world. In Nigeria, it is very difficult to find a chief, especially in the south, who is not a member of Freemasonry. Let's not even mention the influential people and figures in society, in the world of finance and in the world of thought. What we have said about Nigeria is also true in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Indonesia, and also in other parts of the Islamic world. These are the seeds of evil that are growing with such amazing speed, that today we can see in Syria, in Egypt, that the assemblies of Freemasonry have become widespread in every city. And we see people who have high positions and are prominent in politics, power, government, thought, culture, and direction, whom there are also those who wear sarongs. They carry building tools, but not to build the glory of their homeland and the glory of their nation, but they use them to build the Temple of Solomon in the heart of the Arab and Islamic homeland, namely in Palestine. It makes no difference whatsoever, whether they are aware of it or not. So if you want, you can say that the path to high positions can only be reached through the door of the assembly. We have only taken Syria and Egypt as examples. What is actually happening in the rest of the Islamic world is no different from what is happening there. The fruit of Freemasonry thought. As the fruits and results of the seeds that have been planted in the Islamic world are the following things: destruction of culture and history, the destruction of the history of Islamic culture. This is Jurji Zaydan talking about the City of Peace, namely, the city of Baghdad, about the palace of Granada, about the Jami ibn Thulan Mosque in Cairo. He said that those who built these great cities and buildings were the hands of Freemasons. He also said that the great hero Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, may Allah have mercy on him, was a Freemason. Separation of religion from the state. Religion is separated from the state under the slogan, "Religion belongs to God, and the homeland belongs to everyone." Dissemination of atheism. Then atheism was propagated. The state was invited to secularize. This was also the case in the fields of education and culture. Women's liberation. Women were freed from the bonds of religion and morals. The world becomes the center of attention. All attention is directed to the life of the world alone, to the delights and pleasures of life, and away from jihad and the purity of Islamic teachings. Loss of purpose. All aspects of life in the Islamic world have been overwhelmed by a loss of purpose, both as a nation and as an individual. Purpose no longer exists. Direction is uncertain. Real examples. To be able to appreciate this in the world of tangible reality, we will choose the Ottoman Empire and Palestine, with the intention that they will be two lessons that we will never forget and two examples that future generations should always remember. Ottoman Caliphate. The first news we heard about the Ottoman Caliphate when we were children was that it was a colonial government colonizing Arab lands. It is unfortunate that such teachings are still being taught and put into the brains of our teenagers and youth today. Is this true? The reality of the Arab Ummah. Whoever tries to reflect on the reality of the Arab Ummah during the 15th century and at the beginning of the 16th century will find that all that existed in the Arab world at that time was division and discord after the barbaric Tatar invasion and after the vengeful Crusades. Each city had its own ruler and its own government. A country in such a state could not possibly face the era that stood in its glittering glory before the culture of the Islamic East. The age of Ottoman Caliphate power. It was exactly at this time that the rise of the Bani Uthman Empire from Anatolia in Asia Minor undertook jihad fi sabilillah. He had succeeded in opening the first Christian capital of Constantinople, and its name was changed to Istanbul. After that, he continued his advance into the interior of the European world, all the way to the doors of Vienna. Then he turned his attention to the Arab world, which he united under one leadership. Thus, it became one of the most powerful states in the world at that time. Every country goes through a certain process, starting from its childhood, adolescence, adulthood, and old age. After that comes a period of senility and weakness. This last period occurred in the 19th century. One of the reasons that weakened him was nationalism. We will not mention all the reasons that made the Ottoman Empire weak, as this would go beyond the subject of this book. We will only mention one cause that is closely related to the subject matter of this book. The 19th century was a golden age for nationalism. In Germany, nationalism was founded on the basis laid down by Karl Ritter. In Italy, nationalism was in line with the theory of Mazzini. Nationalism entered the position of the caliphate. These two theories of nationalism were also incorporated into the Ottoman Empire itself, namely by the members of the Union and Progress Association, which called for pan-Turanian nationalism, and also by the Young Arab Society, which supported Arab nationalism. With the introduction of nationalism into Ottoman society, the poison began to flow into the strongest pillars of its power. The reason was that the caliphate encompassed a wide variety of peoples and nations. The only thing that united them was the religion of Islam. The caliphate itself was headed by a Turkish sultan, but all the people of different nationalities regarded the Turkish sultan as the Khalifa of the Muslims. All of them have love and respect for him in their hearts. The reason for this is that the sultan is the guardian of Islam and the protector of Islamic law. This is the very basis of the Ottoman Caliphate, which will be destroyed by the call for nationalism, because nationalism is based on race and nationality and not on noble values. Such a call is bound to inflame the spirit of selfishness in the soul of the group and ignite hatred against other nations. and destroy the bonds that unite people in power in a state, such as the caliphate. The promoters of Turanian nationalism argued that the Turkish race of Aryan origin was superior to other nations, as well as in its ability to lead. The promoters of Arab nationalism called for the unity of the Arabs and their right to have a state based on their eternal language. Whereas at that time, the Arabs were the largest social group subject to the rule of the Sultan. Then there was a struggle between these two appeals, which caused the building of the state to stagger more and more, hastening its collapse in a form that is well known to all. Here, we feel compelled to pause, for we must say a word or two about the association of unity and progress. The discussion of the association has a close connection with the word Dunama. What does Dunama mean? Dunama is the name of a group of Andalusian Jews who moved to Turkey after the loss of Muslim rule there. They then settled in Turkish territories, enjoying a safe and secure life. Starting in 1683, some of the Jews began to embrace Islam, superficially, while secretly maintaining their Judaism. For this reason, they are unique among all human beings, even among animals. The history of the Jews is full of thousands of examples of such things. They began to have a very unfavorable influence on society. It is this kind of influence that has led scholars and sober people to warn the public about what is being done by the association known as Dunama. In Turkish, Dunama means apostate, atheist, pagan, or a disbeliever who lies about what he holds as belief. Isaac Ben's remarks. Isaac ben Levi, the previous head of the State of Israel, in his book entitled Dunama printed in 1957 wrote as follows. There are many Jews, and many of them live among the Gentiles, in two ways. The first is the obvious and straightforward way. And here, they follow the religion of the people, where they live in groups and at birth. The second way is the mystical way, which takes the form of deep loyalty to the Jewish religion. So here, Dunama is the name of the Jewish Islamic group. The Society of Union and Progress is Freemasonry. It was they who founded the secular Eastern Freemasonry in Turkey, after the example of the General Assembly of Freemasonry in France. When people began to have suspicions and misgivings about this Grand Assembly of Freemasons, they changed its name, and it became known as the Society of Unity and Progress. Prominent members. Among its most prominent members are Enver, Talat, Javid, Jamal al-Safa, Krasso, Halid Edib, and Mustafa Kemal. A German writer speaks about the relationship between Freemasonry and the Society of Union and Progress. A great German writer named Dagobert von Mabkosch, in his book entitled Kemal Ataturk as a Supreme Example p. 58, wrote about the connection between Freemasonry and the Society of Union and Progress, where he said, the assemblies of Freemasonry, especially the Italian General Assembly in Salonika, warmly welcomed the deeds of the society. The meetings of the society were always held in the chambers of the Freemasonry Assembly, into which no spies, meaning here the spies of the Sultan, entered. No matter what efforts they made, many members of the Freemasonry Assembly were also members of the Association and Progress. In this way, the society has been able to multiply its membership, to increase its influence with the help it has received from freemen. Likewise, the members of the Society and Progress benefited from Freemasonry's methods of dealing in Istanbul, and even from its approach to the palace itself. Other authors write about the society's relations with the Jews. Regarding the relationship that existed between the Society of Union and Progress and the Jews, a writer named Armstrong in his book entitled The Grey Wolf, by which he means Mustafa Kemal. This book has been translated into Arabic and published by Darrell Hillel, has written as follows p. 29. The members of the Association of Unity and Progress have been accustomed to taking refuge in the bosom of the Jews. They used to hold meetings in Jewish homes, protected from all harm. A large number of them have entered Freemasonry. Thus, they receive financial support from various parties.